All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. We are fresh off the Gillette Stadium practice fields after day one of mandatory minicamp down there in Foxborough today. So it is Brian Hines back with Alex Barth, as always, to break down what we saw again on day one of mandatory minicamp today on Monday. So we can get right into it. We can get to the quarterbacks. That's where our eyes are mostly glued to most of the day, and that's what everyone wants to know, of course, with Drake May there. And a continued theme from last week was Drake May got the second most quarterback reps behind Jacoby Brissett, which, again, when we first started going to OTAs about a month ago at this point, it was Jacoby Brissett, and then Bailey Zappi was that second guy, and Drake May was third. Last week in their final week of OTAs, Drake May jumped Bailey Zappi, and that continued today. It was still Jacoby Brissett leading off. I think he took 30 live reps in team drills, and then Drake May was second, and he took 29 too. So not only is he second, but he's really getting a good amount of volume of reps there today on the practice field as well. And he's looking good too. I thought he was impressive today again.
Yeah, that's
so yeah, just take it with Drake May.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing for me is just the pure volume of it. Like we talked about after that first practice. Remember, hey, they need to get him ready, and it is a balancing act between Jacoby Brissett if he's going to be your week one starter, which we both think is the case, I believe. You got to get him ready for week one, but you also got to develop Drake May. And where do Bailey Zappi's reps fit in there? They kind of don't. I mean, the same go for Joe Milton, but they weren't repping Milton ahead of May. Now we're seeing a plan that, okay, this makes some sense here, where you're seeing Jacoby Brissett get enough that he's getting used to working with the guys he needs to get used to. But after that, it's really mostly being dedicated to Drake May and getting Drake May, the reps he needs to develop. So I like the plan they have for him. I thought he had a good day. The one knock is he struggled in that 2-minute, 1-minute drill. So at the end of practice, what they did, first, they put 132 on the clock. The offense had to go 75 yards, no timeouts. We think for a touchdown because one group got in field goal range and didn't kick it on fourth down.
The kickers were like on the other field.
The kickers
they would have like their helmets on, like they're ready on the sideline, ready to run in. But like Chad and Joey Sly were like kicking on the other field. They weren't really involved in that drill. So it looked like they needed a touchdown there.
So you had the offense 132, no timeouts, go 75. And each quarterback got to do that once. And then they kind of broke and then went back, and it was 75 yards, a minute, no timeouts for a field goal. And so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 2-minute drives because Joe Milton only went once. And then 3 of the 1-minute drives once Jacoby Brissett got them in the field goal range. Every other one ended in some sort of win for the defense, mostly turnover on downs, couple where the clock ran out. Bailey Zappi's 2-minute. He was picked off on the first play by Kyle Duggar. But, so people look at that, I think, and knock the quarterbacks. You want to see maybe be better there. But I thought besides that, he had a really good day. And the thing that's now starting to stand out to me about him, we talked about the footwork, and the footwork's coming along. But the other one, Brian, if you remember back to pre-draft, the analogy I used for Drake May, the golf analogy of he has all the clubs in the bag, but he doesn't always know when to use which club. He can hit them all, and he can hit them all well. There's times he's going sand wedge to tee off on a par 4. There's times he's breaking out the 3-wood in the bunker, right in front of the green. And I think what you saw, especially today, it's been all spring, but especially today, he's doing a much better job of figuring out and delivering the necessary pass for the moment. Like we saw him absolutely zip some clothesline bullet passes in between tight windows, one to Pop Douglas for a touchdown. But then he comes back like 2 plays later, and it's a touch pass to LaMichael Petway in the back of the end zone that kind of gives him an opportunity to go up away from the defender and get the ball. So you're seeing him do a better job, I think, of putting touch on the ball when and where he needs to put touch on it, which was another one of those big knocks on him coming out of UNC.
Yeah, that was very impressive today. I thought some of those touch passes, and that seems like it's kind of helped him in the quick game a little bit too. Some of those, you got to get the ball out quick, which another was kind of an area he struggled at UNC at times. But then you saw some of the throws that he did make a lot at UNC, a strike down the seam That was to Jaheim Bell, another touchdown. Or then he had like the one where he steps up and he throws that sidearm pass to Jalen Polk in the flat, which, you see that kind of a playmaker gene and the arm angles that he can work with. And Jabril Peppers loved it. He was starting to do that throw in motion on the sideline. So I thought it was another like just impressive day from Drake May there. He's taking steps. He seems like, we talked to the offensive coaches last week and they seem really impressed with how he's handling everything. And it seems like that's kind of translating to the practice field. So I don't know if you want to say he's ahead of schedule, but it feels like it's been mostly positive the first month here with May.
I don't know that he's ahead, but he's where he should be. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Especially given they might have not given him the first week. Like, we don't know when that rep switch happened. So,
yep. But yeah, I think it's positive signs what we've seen so far. So the big question, like week one, where you at? Like, has this gave you a little more hope? Maybe he's ready week one, or Jacoby still is leading everything off. He looks like the week one starter, or he would be the week one starter if they had a game on Sunday. But has any of this kind of changed your thoughts? Long way to go, of course. We still have all of training camp, all of the preseason, one joint practice, but any maybe more momentum for him to kind of get in there week one?
Yeah, no, May's done everything he could do to this point, but there's still so much more to go. I mean, we got to get the pads on. Let's see him in a joint practice. Let's see him in a preseason. There's so many more boxes for him to check that I still think it's going to be Jacoby Myers week one.
Jacoby Myers.
All right, she's Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Myers could play quarterback.
He could.
Man, Jacoby Myers and Jake Bailey today. You're trying to turn back.
I know. I don't know what's up with me today.
Yeah. So that was Drake May. I don't know. What'd you think? You mentioned, those kind of 2-minute, 1-minute drills. Anything else from the quarterbacks? Whether it was Jacoby, Bailey I feel like it wasn't. Bailey had the pick and he kind of struggled to move the ball elsewhere at times throughout the day. Milton was kind of the Joe Milton experience. He had a really nice, maybe one of the best passes of the day on kind of an out route to Jaquay Jackson, the new wide receiver. But then he comes back and like sails it over the head of the next guy. So kind of the Joe Milton experience. But anything on those quarterbacks, the non-Drake May quarterbacks from today?
I don't know. Zappy's still holding the ball a lot. And that's got to change. And I mean, ultimately, I don't think it ends up mattering because he's not going to be here, but he's holding the ball. He took, I think, 2 sacks. His 1 minute, let me check my notes here. I know his 1 minute, the defense won because he took 2 sacks and the clock ran out. It might have gone a 4th down, but the 4th down was like a second left. His 2-minute was the pick and turnover on downs. But I know he took a sack in the 2-minute as well as the 1 minute. So just got to get the ball out.
Yep. A few of them got hurt. I don't think it might have been Jacoby. A lot of penalties. They had an actual ref crew out there today, and there are a lot of procedural penalties kind of cut into those 2-minute, 1-minute drills as well, as they're kind of, this is early installation, so you might expect that. They were shuffling some guys on the offensive line, which we can talk about as well, but a lot of penalties there to hurt those kind of game-ending drives there as well. So let's wrap up quarterbacks. We have a question from Reggie. What does Drake May need to do to be the week one starter? Can he just be really good in practice? Or does he have to show out in joint practices in preseason games? So what would you want to see from Drake May throughout the summer there to name him the week one starter?
I don't know. It's so tough. I mean, it's got to be preseason. It's got to be joint practices and preseason games. Like anything short of him being excellent in that, and I'm not. I think it's not so much what he needs to do. They need to have the left tackle position figured out and the offensive line figured out. And I get you, like you said, we'll get to the offensive line a little bit. And I think this is part of the conversation, but they had the worst pass block win rate in the NFL last year. It was one of the worst in the last, whatever it is, 10, 15 years, as long as they've been tracking that stat league wide. I'm not putting, even if I think he's ready, I'm not putting Drake May out there to get his ass kicked and get sped up and develop bad habits just because, week one, rookie quarterback, no. I, as a media member and as a Patriots fan, I will sacrifice September 2024 being lesser than football if it means that the next 5 to 10 years are better because they get the line figured out and they don't subject Drake May. Now, it's not going to be perfect. So I give this take and people say, oh, so you got to wait till it's perfect, so he's never going to start. No, there is a middle ground between a perfect offensive line and literally one of the worst offensive lines of the last decade. He's going to face pressure. I get that. It's going to happen. I understand it. And at a certain point, he is a mobile guy. You're going to expect him to negate some of that himself. But he can't be just getting, free rusher blindside clocked every second or third time he drops back, because he's going to develop bad habits if that happens. Any quarterback would. So it's not so much what he has to do. And what compounds this, what makes it trickier, is you can't really evaluate offensive line play in the summer anymore. I think Matt Light talked about this last week, right? On Games with Names on Julian Edelman's podcast. Like, these guys don't get pads on until the weekend of camp. Even then, they can't really hit. They don't play a ton in the preseason games. We saw it last year, and the Patriots were an extreme example, but they're not alone. They were still figuring out their starting offensive line into October, because you don't really get to start evaluating these guys truly and how they work as a unit. Maybe you can evaluate them individually, but that's not how it works. You don't really get to start evaluating them until September. So that's another part of it. I think I said this on the show, Brian, last week. We're sitting up there. It's week 5, and Mike Reese tweets out the starting lineup and says this is the 5th different offensive line Drake May's played behind in 5 games. And, you're putting that much more on his plate where he now has to get used to communicating with different guys every week. I acknowledge there's going to be some of that, and you can't wait until all of that is done. But I would like to see them get some sort of something figured out. Who is your left tackle? Maybe it's not going to be pretty, whoever your left tackle is. But remember last year, they kept rotating guys just to see who could play? Like, who was going to be the best case scenario, even if it wasn't great? Like, let's at least figure out who the best case scenario is, even if it doesn't look good. Let's at least figure out who the best case scenario is before we put Drake May in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that could take, as you said, a few months or a month or two into the season. And Gerard Mayo talked about it. And let's just transition this into our offensive line talk at this point, because Gerard Mayo talked about it today. He said, like, we're going to play the best 5 players, and the personnel is not going to change from now until the season. I mean, maybe they sign, like, David Bakhtiari is the name, people always throw in our chat. Maybe you get one of those guys, but like, you're not going to get a true difference maker in the personnel, but maybe you find a better combination on the line or move something around with your personnel, and that elevates to a point where maybe you're 2 months into the season and now you're like, okay, it's better. We're not the worst pass block win rate in the league. Now we can put Drake May behind that and feel a little more comfortable. So we saw some of that shuffling today. We saw maybe what I think a lot of us have maybe projected to be their best 5, and that was sliding Mike Onwenu back into right guard. Now, that wasn't the lineup for the whole practice. He opened at right tackle. Nick Leverett, the free agent addition, was next to him at right guard. But there were points throughout today's practice where they slid Big Mike inside, and then they put Caden Wallace at right tackle, which, again, that's where he played all of Penn State, at right tackle, and Chooks was back out there at left tackle. So do you think, are you in the boat where that's their best 5? And then it was David Andrews and City So to round that group out, worth mentioning. So that was a notable change there up front, and maybe that is their best 5 moving forward, with Big Mike back at guard, Caden Wallace playing his natural position. Right, you have more guys playing their natural position with that, and maybe that could help settle that unit down a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes some sense. I like Onwenu at tackle, but if Caden Wallace can hold up at right tackle, then that does make a lot of sense. But again, you got to get it figured. Like, you got to see it in the game to figure it out. And we're already seeing them, I think, deviate from their original plan. For a team that said that they plan on developing Caden Wallace as a left tackle, they're not doing it. They're not. He's not playing left. Calvin Anderson was back out there at left today behind Chooks Okorafor. Yep. So, and look, that's, fine. If you're going to keep him at right, keep him at right. It opens up that opportunity. But I think they're scrambling. I think they're already maybe realizing that the plan they had initially isn't going to work.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it so much last show in that last OTA that Caden Wallace was only playing right tackle, and Taylor was yelling at us that it was a crossover day, but today was not a crossover day. They had those guys
No.
at their natural position, and he only repped at right tackle. It was if he was with that first unit next to Big Mike, he was at right tackle, or if it was kind of that second unit, it was Calvin Anderson at left and Caden Wallace at right. So it's a weird situation. Maybe it is them scrambling, but yeah, if they drafted him to play left tackle, which is what they all told us after the draft, he's not getting left tackle reps right now. And
Right.
kind of like the quarterback, this is the time to get these guys, these young guys, the reps, and it's not happening. So I don't know, just kind of a weird situation. Maybe they saw something. Maybe it is just them scrambling at this point. But yeah, Caden Wallace does not look like a left tackle. Like he's preparing to play left tackle at all right now.
And maybe down the road they do it, but for this year, I mean, I think this is the case. And I was talking to Taylor about it at practice, and he said maybe they want to get, Chooks as many reps at left tackle since he's probably going to be starting, which, yes, that's what that was my whole point. You can't have two guys making that change. There's just too much time to dedicate. And yeah, they couldn't have just drafted a left tackle. Zuri Henry was back out there today, and Calvin Anderson's actually playing on the left side. So we're making some progress here.
Well, do you have a Zuri Henry take? Were you watching him closely?
He was barely out there.
Yeah,
I didn't see a ton of. I was just watching him a little bit to see, like, maybe I could tell if he's dealing with an injury or something. I think he's still limited from whatever held him out from, rookie minicamp and OTAs. But we'll revisit that one when we get to camp.
I was laughing. He ran up like 15 minutes into practice. Like he was late. Everyone thought he wasn't there. I told Taylor he probably doesn't even know where the practice field was. That's why he was late. He's never been out there when we've seen him. But Zuri Henry was there. Maybe he'll be our savior. But any other offensive line notes? It was
we got Leverett at guard.
It's tough without pads, but just the lineup.
Michael Jordan got kicked out of practice for trying to fight Tristan Hill.
Yep. Little tempers flaring there today. These guys probably just want to hit each other at this point.
Yeah.
Like, so
no Jake Andrews. He's banged up, so he's clearly dealing with something. And that kind of opens up. We've seen Antonio Mafi rep a ton at center. Saw after practice, Layden Robinson was getting some reps at center, just individually, like him and Drake May were working together. So,
and Ryan Johnson was
the other one. I was trying to remember the other one. So it seems like there might be a job open for a backup center, and that's going to be pretty wide open.
Yep. Charles Turner too was a UDFA center. He could maybe factor into that. He played at LSU. So
yeah.
As always, they'll have tons of competition on the depth offensive line and the starting offensive line because playing best five. So we'll kind of see how this shakes up. But
right.
Elsewhere on offense, maybe the news of the day, Rhamondre Stevenson spoke after practice, and he said that he's pretty close. He believes it's pretty close to signing a contract extension with the team. He's in the last year of his rookie deal. He says, he's trying to get that done, get locked in with an extension, believes he's pretty close. Did confirm that his weight isn't down, but he says it's better weight. He got his body fat down. So that was something we noticed. He looked a little leaner. So said hopes that, helps him hold up for the long season. Mayo said might help his speed in some of those long runs. So he looks good. And he's hoping to get locked in here on a contract extension. Do you think he deserves it? And what type of deal do you think we might be looking at there for Rhamondre?
Yeah, it's tough to say. These running back deals are so all over the place. I don't think it's going to be one of these 1-year bridge deals. I think it's going to be a multi-year deal. I think they're going to try to keep him. Let me pull up the running back over the cap numbers here. Because that's what you got to base it off of, right? You got to base it off of previous contracts. And this was something I was going to look up if I didn't, wasn't rushing home from practice to get home in time to do the show. I was hoping to do some stuff.
Well, you looked that up. I'll say Mayo was asked about him, and he said, I think Stevenson's one of the better backs in the league, no doubt about it. I think over the last few years, it's been kind of tough on him as far as getting started. So I'm excited to see what he does this year, and he's earned everything that he gets. He is our starting running back, and hopefully we do get something done contract-wise he was talking about there. So Mayo is obviously a big fan of him, and running back such a big part of this Alex Van Pelt's offense. Mondre said he was watching a lot of Nick Chubb film.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say a priority because it's June and they haven't extended him, but maybe next up him, Judon, we'll talk about him. But yeah, what'd you find there for contracts?
So going average guaranteed a year, McCaffrey gets 12. He's not touching that. Saquon's at 8.6. Aaron Jones is at 7. That's a fully guaranteed deal. Joe Mixon gets $6.5 million a year guaranteed. Jonathan Taylor about $6.5 million guaranteed. Then you go down to Bijan Robinson, $5.5 million guaranteed. And that's a rookie contract, obviously. So I mean, I think he's probably going to want to be a top 5 back. I think you're looking at somewhere in the 6 to 7 million guaranteed. So I wonder, like 3 years, 20 million, something like that. 3 years, 18, and that's guaranteed. And all of those contracts are about 70% guaranteed. So you're somewhere like 3 years, 24 million with 18, 19 guaranteed, I think is probably his market. This is a fair point, though. Like the 2025 draft, and I tweeted about this the other day, could be a great running back draft. Now, I think we talked about this on the show the other day. I don't know if
we ran through them.
We did. Yeah. So, we'll see. Some of these guys, Ollie Gordon's underclassman, Amarian Hampton is an underclassman now with NIL. Maybe they stay in school. But and maybe guys get hurt. Like you don't know, but it does look like a really, really, really good running back class. But the Patriots are a draft and develop team. This is what they're going to be now. If they draft you and you can play, they're going to keep you. The positional value thing, like that goes out the window. So I think they plan on keeping Rhamondre Stevenson. I think they plan on keeping him long term. Doesn't mean they won't draft a running back, but maybe not as high as they otherwise would. I think they want to pay him. I think they're going to pay him.
Yeah, I'm with you too. Mayo's a big fan. And I think he's going to be a good fit kind of in this offense. So, yeah, I do think they're going to pay him. He's done so much for them the last few years, too. Not that, you end up paying people based off past performances. It's not the best deal of business. But when you are this draft and develop team, that's kind of how you do business. So, that seems the path they're going to take there with Mondre. So, we'll wait and see if that one gets wrapped up. I don't know. Probably not before they break for a training camp here. Maybe that's a mid-training camp extension or something. They've done that.
He said it was close. That to me sounds like
something that might get done
in the early July thing.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. But any other offensive notes? I think Jalen Polk, busiest day of spring practices that we've seen so far. Had 2 touchdowns, one over Christian Gonzalez, another kind of high point over, I believe it was a ZZ Hearn corner. So good to see him getting a little more involved today. Jaheim Bell, too, another rookie you can mention, rookie pass catcher. He was busy. He had that touchdown we talked about from Drake May, a couple other plays up the seam. His skill set there, that speed, athleticism really flashes when he's going up the seam. But any other notes from pass catchers or anything else offensively that we didn't touch on?
Just Jalen Reagor, super involved. I think he tied for the team lead in catches. He led for among wide receivers today. And this time of year, like involvement is notable.
Yeah.
He didn't have any highlight catches. I don't even know if he caught any touchdowns, but he was on the field a lot. Quarterbacks are targeting him. He looks like he's a part of the plan. And that is kind of the biggest takeaways this time of year. So Jalen Reagor, very involved. That feels notable.
Yep. Because that's the spot. There's a 5th, maybe 6th spot at wide receiver. And it's Reagor, it's Juju, it's KJ Osborne. And we've talked so much about Reagor having that special teams and the kick return value. If he is contributing at times as a wide receiver, that certainly helps his case in that roster battle. And just a roller coaster day for Tyquan Thornton. Like he starts team drills with a drop and then on the completely wrong page with Jacoby Brissett, but then he ends it with like a catch or two. So we're not doing Tyquan, but just riding that roller coaster again for him today. So he's going to need probably more consistency there as well if he wants to get involved in that kind of last roster spot in the wide receiver room. So that's it offensively. Before we touch on defense, I want to tell you all about Prize Picks, which is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 5 million members. And it is the most fun and exciting way to get into the action. While you watch your favorite sports and players, you just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. And the Boston Celtics are up 2-0 in the finals, and the finals mean more on Prize Picks, and so do those star players. You get boosted payouts on select basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. We're due for a Jason Tatum game at some point, so I'm going to go over more on Tatum's points in game 3. And my strategy of going against Kyrie has worked pretty well so far, so we're going to keep that going and go less on Kyrie Irving points as well. And even when the finals are over, the hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks, because women's basketball is just getting started, getting a little spicy with the Olympics too coming up, and young stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are looking to make more names for themselves along the greats like Breanna Stewart. And you could win up to 100 times your cash as well watching them ball out. So download Prize Picks today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download Prize Picks today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy over on Prize Picks. So jumping over to defense, we mentioned those 2-minute, 1-minute drills to end practice. There were 7 or 8 of them. It was pretty much defense. They won. They gave up 1 field goal, long field goal too. So good showing from
Chad
those
Ryland
guys.
did hit that one.
He did hit it. I think I had a 50-yarder too, I think it was, or right around 50 yards.
I hit 43.
43?
Yeah.
I thought it was longer than that, but he made it. We'll talk about that later. But I think the big thing defensively, before we get into the performance, was Matt Judon was there. He was not there at all for OTAs and didn't really look last year. Last year was that hold in where he wasn't doing much. Which is kind of what Devon Gottschall was doing today, where, he's another guy who has no guaranteed money on his deal. So his involvement wasn't a full participant, it looked like. But Matt Judon looked pretty involved for a guy who probably wants a bump on his contract or an adjustment there to get some guaranteed money. So good to see him out there and kind of a full participant there for most of the day today.
Yeah, he seems locked in, and that kind of tells me maybe his deal's close soon too. That he's out there, he's getting involved, because I thought he might hold out again or hold in again. He doesn't have a ton of incentive to be out there right now, and the fact that he makes me think that they're getting something done behind the scenes. He said he wants to stay here. He said he wants to be part of this team. They have committed significant money to retaining players. It makes all the sense in the world for them to give Judon a new contract, and it seems like that's close.
Yep. And someone asked what's going on with Jelani Tavai, because he hasn't practiced at all this spring. He's been out there in street clothes, but he hasn't been practicing. He's rehabbing from something. We don't know exactly what it was. Mayo said today he was joking. So Tavai wants to kick on the kickoffs, and Mayo said, no, just get healthy first. So he's rehabbing something. We also didn't get Uche hasn't been out there, which
the only people that weren't out there that weren't related to any known injury, assuming Gerard Mayo using the connection on that, were Josh Uche and Sione Takitaki.
Yeah, who Taki's missed like 3 straight practices as well.
Yeah.
And he's been out there in street clothes as well. So that's probably, I don't want to speculate on what it might be, but it's probably some type of injury. But Uche, we haven't seen at all or know what's going on. Although Mayo said everyone's been in the building. So
Uche was supposed to speak to the media today. So I wonder if there's some last minute there, he's sick or something.
Maybe. But that was attendance. Any standout performances, defense? We saw Jonathan Jones was kind of limited, so we saw a lot of this shuffling in the back end. Christian Gonzalez was obviously Christian Gonzalez, but Isaiah Bolden got some work in the slots.
Got a ton of run today.
Yeah, Alex Austin still involved. Marco Wilson rotated in there, so
even Azizi Hearn was on the field a lot, and so that's my big takeaway is that secondary competition is legit. They're giving everybody a shot, and it's a competition again. Bolden was on the field a ton today. Austin and Wilson have obviously done a ton. Azizi Hearn is getting in the mix, and he was making some plays today. He was actually making some plays. And even you go back to safety, like we were kind of talking about this. I don't remember you were there. I was talking to Taylor Cowles about it, that Jalen Hawkins is going to make the team.
Yep.
Jalen Hawkins is doing way too much with the projected starting defense to think they don't have a role in place for him right now. Like, he's going to make the team. He's going to be here. He was very involved again today as well.
Yeah, we talked about that last show. Like, where does he fit in? Like, it was a little bit of everything. Like, they had some 3 safety packages with, Duggar and Peppers a little closer to the ball. Then he got to play more of that free safety. So they had all 3 of them out there. They mixed and matched him when they just had 2 safeties out there with Peppers and Duggar. So and he's playing a lot of special teams. He's still playing personal protector at times on the punt unit. So he is very involved. If again there was a 53-man roster projection, I would definitely have Jalen Hawkins on it right now. But someone mentioned outside of the secondary, will Keon White have a breakout year? We talk so much like what his role is going to be. He was used all over the defensive line today, too, and they are missing a lot of these linebackers and pass rushers. But there are times where he was kind of stand up on the edge, and then he would kick down and have his hand in the dirt, kind of rushing next to Christian Barmore. So he's moving all over the place, too, as well up front there. So lots of young guys maybe molding a role here in this defense early on.
Yeah, they got a lot of guys that can do a lot of things. And I don't think there's going to be one definitive look, one definitive lineup, anything like that. I mean, I think they're going to be moving guys around a ton. And you're kind of seeing that early on, that they're getting guys prepared to do different things, I think, so that they can be creative with it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely agree. And Peppers was active as always. He was really impressive today. Marte Mapu was pretty involved too, which, again, that's the guy we talk about. What's his role going to be in those 2 minutes? He was playing linebacker, which, you like in those 2-minute situations. He got home. I think it was more of a offensive line miscommunication, but one of those would-be sacks that ended the drive. It was Marte Mapu, and so he was involved out there, and those was the projected starters, so that was good to see. But anything else defensively? The corners.
No, I mean, I kind of just, they're giving everybody a shot in the secondary. I think that was the big thing for me.
Yeah, the corners, that's still the main thing to watch. I think if you're not going to go out and get like the Steph Gilmore, watching how those guys kind of shake out. And I don't. Do you have a sense, like, we haven't seen John Jones? He was limited today. Do you have a sense where he's going to kind of fit into this puzzle? Do you think?
I think it's going to be in the slot. I think because if not, I think we'd see much more Marcus Jones or Sean Wade playing in the slot or whatever. I think they're moving John Jones back inside.
And it's a battle for that second outside spot.
I don't know that it's a battle at this point. It's been Alex Austin pretty consistently. Yeah, I think
Marco
the battle
Wilson
was for the third spot.
I mean, I agree. I think it's Alex Austin as of now, but Marco Wilson was pretty involved at times today. But yeah, Alex Austin's been very impressive throughout the whole spring. So maybe he's closing down on that spot. But yeah, the defense, they just look like a unit that's very familiar with each other, kind of ahead of the page, because they've played together so many years. The coaches are some continuity on that side of the ball. They just look like, for June 10th, they look way ahead of schedule as they probably should be. So special teams or anything else there? Defense?
I think that's pretty much it on defense.
Yep. Special teams, we saw Joey Sly kick for the first time this spring. He rotated in with Chad Ryland during one live field goal session. He went 4 for 4. Joey Sly. Chad Ryland went 2 for 4. He missed from 37 and 47. He pushed them both wide right. And then Chad got the one in the live kind of 1 minute drill where the field goal unit comes on, and he made that from 40 plus there. So 3 for 5 for Chad, 4 for 4 for Joey Sly. Still just the consistency issues for Ryland is worrisome at this point of the year. And whether it's Sly or one of the Jake Bates or the XFL kickers, like they still need some competition in here for Ryland.
Yeah, and this is a big week. UFL championship is this weekend. So, none of the kickers have signed. I think everybody's waiting to get, see what Jake Bates is going to do. But did you see, like, the San Antonio's backup kicker was drilling 45 yarders this week. So I'd still bring in another kicker. Maybe they like what they've seen from Sly. They let him kick, but that whatever ends up happening, it's far from settled. And it's not going to be, I think, until we get the initial 53-man roster. And maybe even from there. Ryland's still erratic, and that hasn't changed. I know he said he worked on his mechanics, but even last week when he had the day when he was 4 or 5, he put 2 directly over the upright and another one just inside. So he has not had a good spring whatsoever.
Yep. They're not, even the makes aren't very pretty. So who knows? Maybe he'll find something in the month off, but he's got to be more consistent there in the summer. And this is going to be something that continues throughout the preseason, joint practice, and as you said, maybe even into the season. Because that was when didn't they find Nick Folk halfway through a year? Because it was like Mike Nugent.
Yeah, they started with Mike Nugent,
and then did they go right from Folk from Mike Nugent? Like he lasted like 3 or 4 games.
They had some other guys in for workouts. Like they had, I think Kai Forbath was here for a workout. Okay. Young Wei Koo was on the practice squad at one point. But the only guys that kicked for them that year were Gostowski, Nugent, and then Folk.
And Folk. Yep. So that's life without a consistent kicker. You can kind of cycle through those guys. So that's going to be definitely a focus throughout the summer there. But kickoffs, we saw a little bit of the kickoff work today. We saw them doing that, thing with the ball again, that they lay flat on the tee and kickoff. Chris asks, with the new kickoff, does it make more sense to have a finesse kicker or a tackler kick the ball? That's what we were talking about with Jelani Tavai. We heard this, the Chiefs say they were playing Justin Reed, who's a safety, but he can kick. They were letting him kick off. So you have another man who can, tackle, because the kickers really are left on an island back there, and they will be more involved in the play. So Gerard Mayo says Jelani Tavai has been knocking down his door to try to be the kickoff man. So then you have a linebacker down there to tackle. But is that something you're for there, or doesn't look like they're trending in that direction right now, but no. Is that something you would contemplate?
We'll see. There's different ways to do it. One thing I kind of picked up late. So let me say that there's different ways to do it. Everybody's going to have different strategies. I think some teams may see, an advantage in that and having 11 guys. There are some differences though between the XFL rule and the NFL rule. And there's one I missed in the fine print until last week. So nobody can move until the ball is hit, but obviously the kicker has to be able to kick the ball, get a running start. The kicker cannot cross the 50 until the ball hits the ground or is caught by the returner. So you don't necessarily have a major advantage. Like you have an advantage and an extra guy that can tackle, but it would be the same as the advantage you'd have essentially in a regular kickoff. It's not like you have a guy that's running down there is going to get a head start and be able to hit the hole at full speed.
Yeah.
So you could do it. I think, teams may just say, hey, it's easier for the offense to block. We just want another tackler on the field. That would be the logic behind it. I wouldn't. Justin Reed is a guy who's been a kicker. I think it was in college, if not in high school. Like he was a kicker at one point. He can kick. You're not necessarily sacrificing a ton, putting him back there to do it. I don't know what Jelani Tavai's background as a kicker is, but if you're just going to teach him to kick, to have the extra tackler out there, that one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. That at that point, it's not worth it, because the direction in which you kick the ball, the angle in which you kick the ball, the distance, like you need to be very precise on these kickoffs, because your coverage plays are all set up off the ball falling in a certain spot. So I wouldn't sacrifice anything in the kicker in order to get an extra tackler out there. But if you have a Justin Reed, then Ndamukong Suh, remember back in the day, he was kicking field goals. Even a guy like Ocho Cinco, like those guys Wes Welker, right? Those guys had experience kicking. They were capable kickers. They weren't new to it. Maybe Tavai's been a kicker. I don't think he kicked in college unless he hit it off to the side. But if anything, I think the happy medium is going out and getting a punter like Torrey Taylor, who's 6'5", 235. Guy's the same size as Joe Milton, who's a tank who can at least get in the way if he gets down there. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't sacrifice anything in terms of kicking ability to get the tackler out there.
I looked up Jelani Tavai kicker, and I didn't see anything
Okay.
from his. Although he was on the side field today, and he hit a pretty impressive 35-yard drop kick field goal. So
All right.
maybe there is a little background there for Jelani. Let's see. I have his high school stats.
We'll have to ask him.
He's listed as a tight end and defensive lineman in high school,
Did he kick?
and the page isn't working. Maybe that will load. But yeah, again, this is the kickoff. It's going to be such a continued process.
Right.
Even again, talking about things that will continue into the regular season. That's something that is really going to take time to watch how teams unfold their strategies and everything. So maybe at some point they find a benefit in that. But I have his volleyball stats from high school now, but
That doesn't help us. He's
I'm
probably nasty, but that doesn't help us.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we'll find it somewhere else. But
next time he talks, we'll ask. Look, they have an emergency kicker. I don't know who it is. We found out who the emergency long snapper was a couple years ago, and now I can't remember. But
wasn't it Tavai?
Oh, was it? Hang on, let me see. I know I tweeted it once.
Or was it? I think it was.
No, it was Dietrich Wise, wasn't it? No, it was Mac Wilson.
Okay. Tavai was fullback last year in camp, but then they never used it in the regular season.
They got scared because we were talking about it.
Yeah. So they need a new backup lawn snapper then this year as well.
Maybe that. Well, you can't be the. Well, I guess if it's on kickoffs, you could be the kickoff kicker in the emergency long snapper.
Yeah.
Right. It was. Well, we found out last year Mac Wilson was the emergency because he'd long snapped in high school and a little bit in college. So they do need a new. I feel like I remember Dietrich Wise saying once he had experience long snapping, so maybe he's now the emergency long snapper. But I don't know if he's kicked.
I don't see Dietrich Wise as a kicker.
This guy's telling us that Jelani Tavai kicked off in a game once
against the Panthers
in 2021.
I feel like I would have remembered that unless he was with the Lions.
Yeah, no, he was here.
No, what did he kick off when he was with the Lions?
He doesn't have any kicking stats on Pro Football Reference, so I don't believe so.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll have to, if he's ever healthy and we get a chance to talk to him, we will have to ask him about his kicking experience and get back to everyone on that. But any other things you noticed from kickoff drills today? Have you come up with a wonderful master solution for the return team to know when to go yet when the guy catches the ball?
Sort of. Well, you can look at the video board.
Yeah.
But if I'm the home team and I'm kicking off, I turn the video board off. I put something up there, like get loud or whatever. So, nope, still thinking about that one.
Yep. All right. Well, any other last notes from practice there?
Oh, well, this is why we couldn't find it. According to ChatGPT. Yeah, okay.
Oh. Stupid AI. Yeah, Chris says can't the return team just react when the kickoff team starts moving?
Yeah, but now you're reacting. You're late.
Yeah. I don't know. Could you just have them because in the regular kickoff, they turn their backs and run backwards. Are they too close to if they just turned around and then ran 5 yards and then turned around then you're facing the guys running after you? Is it too tight, do you think, to do that?
Say that again?
Just you almost treat it like an old return where you run back and then you turn around to start your block.
But there's not that much room. I mean,
you'd be way too tight to the returner, I think.
Right. If I saw a team doing that, I would pooch kick it as close to the 20 as possible.
Yeah, so they have
and now you're going to be right on top of them. Yeah, no, I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I think that'd be too tight. Oh. But yeah, I think the big thing that we can note right now is just that the flat football, the off the tee, the kickoff, that gave Marcus Jones some trouble today, which that's going to be another thing. You want to field this as cleanly as possible so your team can start moving as quickly as possible there as well. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to keep unfolding, but watching unfold, I should say. But Yeah. Any other last notes there? Anything we didn't hit? Anything you have in your notebook from practice that we didn't talk about?
That's pretty much it.
I believe that was it. So um, let's wrap up football and transition very quick just to a Boston sports minute, because the Celtics are up 2-0 in the finals, and I don't know if there's going to be a game 5 back in Boston TD Garden. I think Kyrie was walking off the court saying, well, I'll see you back in game 5, so he's planning on it. But if they do come back to the Garden, you better be using Game Time to get your tickets. They are the authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier, because prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. And with killer last minute deals, all in prices views from your seat and the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. They have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game, or event in zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. And if you're in Boston debating whether or not to go to the game, they have last minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports and even comedy, theater, or concerts as well. Maybe Tom Brady tickets too. I haven't checked. I'm sure Game Time, you could probably get your Tom Brady tickets on there as well. So take the guesswork out of buying all your tickets and your NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed on Game Time. So Celtics going to Boston for game 3, up 2-0 in the series. They survived the bad shooting game. They shoot like 20% from 3 last night, and they still won. They just look like they're in command of this series. I think, not to pat ourselves on the back, but the difference after you get from Kyrie and Luka to everyone else, from Jalen and Jason to everyone else on the Celtics, is just so much in the Celtics' favor. The Mavs role players have been very bad to start the series, and KP, Derek White, Drew Holiday has played excellent. Like, those are the guys that are really elevating this thing for the Celtics, and they look really good. Obviously, up 2-0. So,
Right.
I don't know. Dallas, I still I don't see them getting swept, but I mean, Celtics in 5, Celtics in 6 at the worst, it looks like right now.
I mean, I think they're getting swept. I'm
Okay.
at the point where I think they're getting swept. So first off, like, they don't have a guy outside of Luka and
Luka.
Kyrie who can do what Drew Holiday did.
Yeah.
They don't have an answer for that at all. I just think, I mean, if I'm a Dallas fan, the way game 2 ended is so concerning for me. How do you not foul? 37 seconds to go, 7-point game. I get it's a long shot, but it's the NBA Finals. You're trying to avoid going down 2-0. What a monumental white flag. What a slap in the face for Jason Kidd, who's panicking before the game, goes out of the Jaylen Brown comment. Luka's, more worried about being perceived as hurt, and he played really well, but like, there's two. If you're that hurt, dude, don't play. If you're that hurt, you can't play.
He's only hurt when he misses shots too.
Did you see, like, during the lineup announcements, he had like the full body wrap on, like Ben Roethlisberger in training camp. What good does that do? You came out of the tunnel, you just put that wrap on for 2 minutes for the lineup? Like, what's really the point there? It's coming off as soon as you get in the game. So he's more worried about being hurt. Kyrie's completely lost. I'll give you another white flag. Am I crazy for thinking that it's a little weird that Kyrie didn't say anything explosive after game 2? Nothing. He gave a very normal, relative for Kyrie, but like, he gave a very normal press conference. There was no dig at the fans. There was no dig at the Celtics. He was just like, we lost. We need to play better. Which I know, like, it's boring, but it's Kyrie. No, like, fans were saying this to me, or, in the great picture of the flat earth, this is going to happen. No, he just sat there and said, because he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's done. He wants to go home. Played terrible. I think they got Cancun brain. I think they're ready to go home.
Kyrie looks so bad, and it's great, but
we'll see. Like, maybe they steal a game of Dallas, but I think they're done. I think the Celtics played the worst game they will play all series, and the Mavericks still lost. And they have to know that.
The whole second
How do you
half
come
felt like
back
the
from that?
Celtics, like they were in control kind of the whole second half. It felt like, other than like that quick 8-0 spurt at the end where they cut it to
Yeah.
5 or 3, that was like a little worrisome. But like they shot 20% from 3. They didn't play well at other parts, and like they were still in control for basically the whole game. And so that's got to be demoralizing for Dallas. So maybe, role players play better at home. Maybe we get a PJ Washington. He has a Grant Williams game and he hits 8 3-pointers or something. And that's what they need, right? Like how many times, or you've been at the games, but like the broadcast,
Yeah.
like they say Dallas just needs a third person to step up and start scoring beyond Kyrie and Luka. And they say Kyrie, like Kyrie's scoring, but he's not. So I don't know. It just feels like they're in kind of different weight classes right now, which it has been the Celtics all year. Like they have the best roster. Them and Denver got bounced, obviously. So they have one of the best rosters. And credit to Brad Stevens, because he built this thing where if Tatum isn't scoring like in 2022, it's not just going to fall apart. Right now, they have Drew Holiday, they have Derek White, and Tatum's not scoring, but he's still impacting the game, so well in other places. 12 assists last night, so it's a wagon. You can say it's a wagon, and it really is. So, sweep. You're going sweep now.
I'm picking sweep. Yeah. I mean, walking out of there last night and you kind of got the vibe from the Mavericks team. Maybe they get home, they sleep on it, they feel a little better, but that was a team that's ready to wrap it up. That was a team that knows their beat.
Yep. Someone says MVP, Brad. Can you give the GM the NBA Finals MVP award?
He did win Executive of the Year, so
okay. He deserves it.
Yeah.
But they play game 3 Wednesday night. That is Tom Brady night, of course. So and last day of minicamp. So we'll be back Thursday. They don't have practice anymore tomorrow. They are doing a kind of a team bonding, some charity work around Boston, I believe. So they are not practicing tomorrow. So we won't have a show tomorrow. Then last day of minicamp on Wednesday, Tom Brady night. Wednesday, Celtics game 3, Wednesday. So we'll be back Thursday at some point. We don't have the exact time yet, but make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter. We will let you know there. We should be back with Taylor on Thursday, maybe Mike as well, for a crossover episode to recap the Brady night and all of minicamp in its entirety as well. So in the meantime, you can also follow Alex on Twitter at Real Alex Barth and head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his written work from minicamp today. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines and head over to patspulpit.com to read my Patriots coverage from Gillette today on there as well. Thank you all, as always, for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys on Thursday.